Pam Munoz Ryan was born on December 25, 1951. She was raised in Bakersfield, California. Pam Munoz Ryan earned a college degree, married, and had 4 children. Ryan received her master's degree in post-secondary education. After fulfilling her dreams, she became an extraordinary writer, winning awards for over 25 of her novels. She is an author recipient of the National Education Association's Civil and Human Rights Award, the Virginia Hamilton Literacy Award for Multicultural Literature, and the Willa Cather Award. Her most popular novels include Esperanza Rising, The Dreamer, Becoming Naomi Leon, and Writing Freedom. The Dreamer by Pam Munoz Ryan is the novel we will examine for our Authentication project. From the time he is a young boy, Neftali hears the call of a mysterious voice. Even when the neighborhood children taunt him, his authoritarian father ridicules him, and he doubts himself. Neftali knows he cannot ignore the call. Under the canopy of the rainforest and into the fearsome sea and through the persistent Chilean rains, he listens and he follows. This story combines elements of magical realism with biography, poetry, literary fiction, and sensory illustrations. When asked what about Pablo Neruda moved her to write this fictional account of his childhood, Pam Ryan explained, "The more I learned about Neruda's childhood, the more captivated I became, and the more of his poetry I read, the more I wanted to learn about him." Ryan explains why she was inspired to insert the sound poems when she stated, "Rhythm was a presence in Neruda's life, and I wanted that to translate to the book. I attempted to create a type of soundtrack. I hoped the reader would recognize the relationship between the simplest of repetitive sounds and poetry." When Pam Munoz Ryan was asked to speak about some of the most relevant themes in the book that the readers will relate to, she expressed, "I think that there are many elements in Neruda's young life that will feel common and familiar to readers. His strained relationship with his father and brother, his supportive relationship with his sister and mother, his struggle for independence, his painful shyness, and his desire to collect and organize mementos are all ways in which readers can relate."
Hi, I'm Pam Munoz Ryan. I'm the author of Writing Freedom, Esperanza Rising, Becoming Naomi Leon, Paint the Wind, and my newest novel, The Dreamer. I became what you probably call an obsessive reader from about 5th grade on. I was just always one of those kids who carried a book around with me, and I was one of those readers that if I loved a book, I would read it 4 or 5 times. So I think because books were so influential at that point in my life, from 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, I think that that's why I migrated to that age group to write. I think the thing that's the most redeeming is, of course, receiving letters from them and from teachers and discovering how they use them in the classroom, but also discovering all the activities that they design, that librarians design to extend the book. It's always really, a wonderful reinforcement for me to have a child write me and say, I read the book more than once, or I wasn't supposed to read ahead, but I did anyway. So my most ardent goal when I'm writing is to make the reader turn the page. So that's gratifying to find out if I succeeded. The Dreamer parallels the childhood of the Chilean poet Pablo Neruda. It follows his life from the time he is about 6 years old until he's 16. His name, before he changed it, was Neftali Reyes, and he was a painfully shy boy, had a very dictatorial father, an extreme stutterer, and it's his life and it's how he evolves from this sort of repression. One of the ways that he copes as a child is by sort of living in his own worlds, collecting things from nature, reading and books. And so the book tells what his childhood is like and how he evolved into who many consider the most read poet in the world. I visited Chile, and while I was in Chile, I visited several of Neruda's homes. And when I came back, I became very intrigued, and also after talking to another author who told me a story about Neruda's childhood, I was intrigued enough to begin researching it. And one thing led to another, and of course his childhood had all the premises for a dramatic story. And for a writer, that's the type of thing that you're always looking for. So I really couldn't resist.
Chile is officially the Republic of Chile in Spanish, known as La República de Chile. It is a long, narrow country stretching along South America's western edge with 4,300 kilometers of Pacific Ocean coastline. Santiago, its capital, sits in a valley surrounded by the Andes and Chilean Coast Range mountains. The city's Plaza de Armas, founded in 1541, contains neoclassical landmarks and the National History Museum. The massive Parque Metropolitano offers swimming pools, a botanical garden, and a zoo. Chile's population is around 17.62 million people. Within this population, we find the Mapuche people, who are located in the Arcanian woods. This was the main group of Arcanians, ranging in population of 800,000 people. The Mapuche people were the first inhabitants of half of the area known as Chile and Argentina. The Mapuche people are people of the land. Mapu means land, and Che means people. The Mapuche Nation is situated in what is known as the southern cone of South America, in the area now occupied by Argentina and Chilean states. In Chile, the Mapuche people live mainly in the provinces of Biobío, Malleco, Cuauhtín, and Chiloé. Chile is a country of startling contrast and extreme beauty, with attractions ranging from the towering volcanic peaks of the Andes to the ancient forests of the Lake District. Chile is today one of the most prosperous and stable nations in South America.
Neftali Reyes, from The Dreamer, was inspired by the poet Pablo Neruda. Originally born Neftali Reyes Pasualto, Neruda was born in Parral, Chile, on July 12, 1904. His father was a railway worker and his mother a schoolteacher. Soon after Neruda's birth, his mother passed away, leaving his father to get remarried to Trinidad Malverde. Neruda was raised in rural southern Chile, where he developed his interest in natural phenomena. He began writing poetry at the age of 10, publishing poetry in his uncle's newspaper, La Mañana. At the age of 16, Neruda studied at the Instituto Pedagógico Santiago to become a teacher. It was at this time when Neruda decided to change his name, partly to hide his work from his father. The name was inspired by the famous poet Jan Neruda, and Pablo Neruda used it to pay respect to him. By the 1920s, he became one of the most important literary poets in Latin America. When he was only 20, Neruda wrote his famous 20 love poems and a song of despair. Neruda's poems were about the dramatic landscape of Chile and his rage against the exploitation of the indigenous people. After 1927 till 1935, he was in consular service representing Chile and Central Asian and Latin American countries. When he returned to Chile in 1945, he was elected senator for the Republic and joined the Communist Party of Chile, writing poems against President González. Being so, he had to live in hiding from the government until he managed to leave in 1949. In 1971, Pablo Neruda was awarded the Nobel Prize for his literature. 2 years later, on September 23, 1973, Pablo Neruda passed away in the capital of Chile.